right, 10:02 on the fan. What's happening, everybody? How are we today? Teak, I got a little something for you, buddy.
Yes.
I don't think you're going to like it.
Why?
I just don't think you're going to like it. Because I know what you're going to say.
I could like it.
Well, no, you're not going to, because I know you're not going to like this. Let me at least set it up first.
What's wrong with you, dude?
I know you're not going to like it.
All right, go ahead.
The dust is settled. Is that a fair statement as
Yes.
we talk about the Giants? All right,
Yes.
The dust is settled on the Giants season.
The game was Saturday.
The emotions are a little less volatile, shall we say?
Yes.
Okay, there's been a stabilization of what people are saying and tweeting back to reality here to an extent.
Postmortem has kicked in.
Yes, sensibility has begun to once again enter the equation. All fair statements pertaining to Giant fans?
I would think so.
Okay. The Giants need to be very careful how they move forward with this Daniel Jones stuff. Very careful.
Why are you talking about Daniel Jones?
I like Daniel Jones.
He had a great season.
I like him. I really like him. And I'm not trying to bury the lead. I like Daniel Jones.
Okay.
I do. But this notion that Daniel Jones is about to bust the bank is absolute lunacy. It's going to prove to be a fallacy. And if Daniel Jones, and I get it, you chase every conceivable penny. I'm not mad at him. He definitely changed the narrative, and I respect that. And I want him to be here for a long time. But if Daniel Jones's reps are so inflexible to the point of commanding a number that is not consistent with not only who Daniel Jones is, but where the Giants are, then the Giants need to be prepared to pivot away from Daniel Jones.
See, I don't think we know who Daniel Jones fully is yet. Daniel Jones had a very good season. I want to say it's a great season. It wasn't like he was a Pro Bowler or even in the conversation for, an all-pro type player. Until you're at that stage, that's when you can command $40-something million a year. But Daniel Jones is just, I think, scratching the surface of what Daniel Jones can be. And, there's 15 touchdowns and 5 interceptions, 7 rushing touchdowns, and 4,000 plus all-purpose yards. That includes his rushing. I think that is just the tip of the iceberg on what he can be. And also, he's a great leader. He's great, I think, student of this game, and it shows in how he plays and how his team respects him. The other reason why Daniel Jones is so high in my mind is because of what Amy Trask, your friend, former Raiders president, used to say. Hey, get rid of him and then do what? So I love the concept of drafting a young player at quarterback and letting him grow into a star and figuring him out and figures the system and he gets immediate success because the team around him is good. But I don't want to go back there if I'm a Giants fan. I'm not saying the Giants are close and it's like, oh, Daniel Jones, just let him have another year and it's going to, they're going to win a Super Bowl. I'm not saying that at all.
Yep.
But Daniel Jones is 25 years old. He's still got lots of years of good football in front of him. And we're just starting to see with good coaching what he can become. So there's no way I'm thinking about anyone other than Daniel Jones being my starting quarterback for the New York Giants.
He looked, and I know you know this, he was awful on Saturday. Awful. Now, he's not alone. They were clearly overmatched, and the significantly better team did what they were supposed to do. All right? And again, this has got to be stated. I really like Daniel. I want to see the Giants proceed forward with Daniel Jones. But the fact that he wasn't drafted by this regime, and we know that, it's going to be an emotionless, it should be, and I think it will be with Shane and Dable, an emotionless navigation of the offseason. This is not like Joe Douglas trying to prove to us, Zach Wilson's salvageable. And by the way, I mean, Zach Wilson can't shine Daniel Jones' shit. This is not about propping up Zach unfairly or, without any sort of evidence and downgrading and denigrating Daniel Jones. Not my intention. All I'm saying is they've got a lot of holes. And I worry about that one Cavalier offer. Now, if the Giants from another team that forces the Giants to maybe do something that they are not prepared to do or don't want to do. Now,
you mean
I don't think that they will.
Matching something stupid.
Absolutely. Now, let's go through this. If the Giants slap the exclusive franchise tag on him, then he can only negotiate with the Giants. And if they don't get the long-term deal worked out, it's a $45 million deal.
Yeah, ish.
Around. If they do non-exclusive, then other teams obviously are able to jump in after, and the number's more palatable, $34 million. And then that would be the 2 first-round picks that would be attached
if someone else took them.
If somebody else winds up taking Danny. I don't want to see that happen.
Yeah.
I don't. And they need to find their happy ground. You know, you look at somebody like Jameis Winston who's fallen apart. He's right around $14 million. Tannehill and Wentz are better comps, right around $30 million. And I know that every year is unique, but I guess what I'm saying is the resistance. I have to, man, I hate being the bad guy with this, but I think that, and I've heard this a lot, you know, Jones specifically is going to benefit from the timing of his free agency. Mm-hmm. Yes, he is. I understand
he definitely
that.
Is.
But it can't be reckless, and it can't be to the ultimate detriment of the Giants. Think about that deal when Joe Flacco bet on himself. Remember that? Back in 2013? And Joe Flacco wound up signing 6 years, $121.
That was ridiculous.
Which was insane.
It's ridiculous.
Which was insane.
Yes.
Now, he was coming off a championship.
Yeah.
So he had the Ravens literally hostage. Like, well, all right, good. All right, better. And by the way, the previous postseason, he was very good as well. I think it was Lee Evans who dropped the touchdown pass in the back in the end zone. Like, I think he had like 12 touchdowns and 1 picks or 12 touchdowns. Like, he did back-to-back postseasons with sick numbers and a run that was accompanied by a championship. I do think, let me be clear, I do think he will stay here. I want him to be here. But if Jones has a number in his head that is not meshing with what the Giants need to do, then I am okay with a pivot. I am okay. I am myself. I do think I'm alone here for the most part. That's fine.
I think Giants fans would accept that, but it wouldn't be ideal for them because now all of a sudden you're starting over again. Now you got to go through the growing pains of a young quarterback, unless you go get a veteran. And, I mean, what are the veterans that are out there that you would want? So Tom Brady? I don't want Tom Brady and you don't even want him as a Jet. And you guys like
no, but I do want Rodgers. We'll get to that later.
Rodgers is interesting.
We'll get to that later.
Rodgers is very interesting.
Yes, he is.
It'll be interesting, this conversation, because if both Giants and Jets theoretically are available, where would Aaron Rodgers rather be? That's a question that we'll talk about a little bit later. So there's not a ton of free agents that I'm looking at saying, yeah, I want you because you're, better skills or more accomplished or younger. There's not that many than Daniel Jones out there. And so while I understand what you're saying, I also accept the reality of quarterback pay. And I hate it because it accelerates at, 5 to 10, 20% every couple of years, whereas other positions are like 1 or 2 or, running backs are probably negative percentage at this point.
Like the radio business.
Exactly. Well, I'll take less money. Take less money to do more. But I understand how much quarterbacks demand and get paid.
Yep.
I mean, I was just looking at this, the average cap, like a hit percentage of cap for quarterbacks is ridiculous. I mean, it's like 15% on average. There's a couple of teams that are down in the 2 and 3, but those are mostly rookie quarterbacks on rookie deals. But once your quarterback is somewhat established, it's 12 to 15% of the cap is the quarterback, and it's just what you budget for. And so I get
provided you've got the other stuff around it to make it make sense.
Well, I mean,
which the Giants
way,
don't.
A lot of these don't make sense. A lot of these, Tennessee Titans, for instance. Tennessee Titans have 16.5% of their salary cap on their quarterbacks. Does that make any sense for a team that was terrible this year? No, not at all.
If they were the 1 seed a year ago, but no, that is not a model to win a championship.
It's not like there's a formula for it, but there is a reality to it. I think that's the way that I look at it. There's a reality to what you're going to have to pay your quarterback. And if I'm the Giants, Daniel Jones has proven, as Joe Shane said yesterday, he's done everything that we asked him to do. He's proven that he can be the guy, and I don't think we've seen his ceiling yet. So the last thing I want is to start over at that position.
I got you. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney on the Fan. Hoff and Dover in the house. By the way, our boy Hoff, he's on fire.
I know.
4 in a row for the player.
The Islanders took a lead in that game in the second period. I was like, Hoff's going to be wrrong.
They got dumped 5-2, I think was the final.
They were up 2-1 at one point in time, and 4 straight goals by Toronto.
All right, so you're rolling. Attaboy, you have you got the mic for a little bit. We're going to let you roll with that. Listen, I think when you look at about the Jones stuff as well. You're right. There's so many things I really like about him, and it gets almost repetitive, but it needs to be restated. He's big. He's strong. He's fast. He's intelligent. He's emotionally consistent, which is paramount with that position in this city, particularly. Not to bring Zach back into the equation, but think about such a simple question that really may have ruined Zach's long-term possibility here when he didn't take ownership of playing horrendously. Daniel Jones would never do that.
Never.
He's wired differently. I get that. But I've also got supreme confidence in Daboll. And as long as Kafka's here,
You mean to do it with anybody?
Yeah. Are you that's what I think you need to at least be a little open to. If they came to me, they're not going to tell us.
Yeah.
But if they did, if they're like, we're sitting at Daboll's house, you've gotten to know him pretty well. We're sitting there with the scotch with Daboll, and he's like, I'm telling you right now, there's this kid at so-and-so who I know we could get in the 20s, move back, whatever. Or early round 2, or scoot up a few slots, get him 12, whatever the number is. And he's like, this kid's going to make $1.8 million next season, and he's going to be a star in my system. Because Purdy has not lost.
No, he hasn't. He hasn't looked amazing, but he hasn't lost.
No, he didn't look amazing this past weekend.
Yes.
He's looked fairly amazing throughout
he's
this undefeated
he's
run.
Good at not making mistakes.
But to me, that's amazing.
As a rookie, absolutely.
That's the first step of possibly being amazing at all facets. And there's other guys that, the guy that just slayed the Giants this past weekend.
Yeah.
Second-round pick, making peanut. What is Jalen Hurts making? $890,000?
Something like that.
Okay.
It's not a lot.
And they are, and I don't mean to keep saying they are miles better than the Giants.
Philadelphia Eagles, that statistic about percentage of cap, Philadelphia Eagles.
What is it, 1%?
Quarterback, 2.45%. 2.5% on their quarterback.
Compared to 16, 18, or 20% when you get up to somebody like Rodgers or Brady. So I want people to convince me why there can at least be a conversation if the organization believes this. Now, if they look at Daniel Jones, maybe we're still having that scotch, and he goes, listen, big mouth, fellow Boldy, shut up. I've been around the game a long time. Daniel Jones is just about to pop. What you saw last year, that is just the tip of the iceberg. This young man's going to be a star. We just got to get him some weapons, guys that can win on the outside. You know what I say? My bad, coach. I got you.
Yep.
But I haven't heard that yet.
But I think that's what's gonna move
they might
the
think
needle
that
positively for Daniel Jones.
I got you. But that doesn't mean that there's not a possible other side. That's all I'm saying. Just wanted to introduce that. 877-337-6666 inside of our Town Fair Tire studio here on the show. Town Fair, you always get the guaranteed lowest price on name brand tires from Connecticut to Maine. Nobody beats Town Fair Tire. Nobody. Now, I'll tell you this as well real quick before we get these calls. I absolutely, deduced and extrapolated what you did yesterday from the press conference. I believe that they really want Daniel back. I believe they're a little lukewarm on Saquon.
Yeah, they're hard negotiating with Saquon.
Yep.
They are friendly negotiating with Daniel Jones.
As they should. One's a running back, one's a quarterback.
Just is what it is.
It is what it is.
Sucks for running backs, and I feel for them, but it is what it is. Nothing you can do about that.
Okay. Listen, you know where I stand. I love the kid, but there's other options out there. There could be.
Not a ton.
I hear you.
Not a ton.
I understand that. Eric is in Clifton. What's happening, Eric? How are you today, buddy? What's going on?
Good morning, guys.
Hey.
I can't believe this conversation. And again, I'm a Raider fan, but to put any of this on Daniel Jones is ridiculous. Do you remember the game Tecmo Bowl growing up?
Yeah, of course.
Yes.
Sure.
When you pick the other team's play,
Oh, yeah.
and their defensive line throws their offensive linemen all over the place and just kills the quarterback, that was the game.
I know.
To put that game on him, the guy was running for his life. 8 quarterback hits, 5 sacks. I felt like they were in the backfield before the snap.
Yeah.
And to put this game, the play of the lines on both sides, Kayvon Thibodeau was in a straitjacket all night. Dexter Lawrence was getting pushed straight back off the ball. They ran the ball right down the Giants' throat. Saquon was averaging 7 yards a carry, and you just only give it to him 9 times when you needed to slow the game down. This whole thing came down to a horrific game plan. And they just got the living crap knocked out of them.
All right, listen, but here's the thing, Eric, to be fair, because I don't want the narrative, I don't want the point to be hijacked here. I'm not placing the blame on Daniel. This is not a micro snapshot of a single game. This
But
is
when he's had time this year, he's done well.
no. I
And
understand
you
that.
gotta get a weapon.
But Eric, and that's why I like him for
You
sure.
got a $100 million wide receiver that didn't even sniff the field.
Okay, and you know what? When you cut him, you're going to get banged out a little bit on the cap, a little bit, which is going to further exacerbate where they are financially, which means you've got to be very smart about the quarterback position. Now, that intelligence might lead to Daniel Jones, I don't know, 115, I'm just throwing numbers out, $115 million guaranteed, whatever's palatable for the Giants. And by the way, I think this is going to happen. I do. But I also live in a world where there's two conversations to be had about just about every topic that you can conjure up. Mm-hmm. And, you know, that doesn't mean that I attach a great deal of probability to this actually occurring. I don't. I'm telling you. Full transparency. I really do think he's back with the Giants. But I also think that this foregone conclusion that he's going to get whatever the heck he wants, I think that that's ludicrous. He's not Joe Burrow. He's not Mahomes. He's not Josh Allen. He's not.
I don't think this is not the same situation as Kirk Cousins. Remember Kirk Cousins when he just kept getting franchised and year after year after year, it was the franchise tag on top of the franchise tag on top of the franchise tag. And then eventually he was like, dude, I'm good. You got to pay me. And he goes to Minnesota and he gets paid. But it's always short-term deals because no one actually believes that he's actually that good, which is unfair to Kirk Cousins because he's actually a pretty decent quarterback. He's not elite, but he's a pretty decent quarterback. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones, I don't think is in that situation where he's screaming at the general manager, whether literally or in his mind. How you like that? Right?
You like that.
He's not that kind of kid.
Yeah,
and he understands his role and where he sits with this organization. Now that being said, he's not going to let himself get taken advantage of.
That's the point. Nor should he. He's no dummy. He's a Duke kid. Business is business. And when there's a dearth of attractive quarterbacks out there, we've run down the list for the Jets, so we don't need to do it again because we know chapter and verse.
Not a lot.
It ain't pretty. If he ever was dangled out there or some team viewed him the way, quite frankly, I could see a team maybe viewing him because I really do like Daniel Jones, that's going to be a tough decision for the Giants. It can't just be Daniel Jones no matter what. That's my point. That's far different from saying, I don't know if the Giants can win with Daniel Jones. I'm not saying that. But it can't be Jones at all costs. That I'm saying. 877-337-6666. Tiki and Tierney here on The Fan. We'll get these calls coming up. Schefter, he just kind of dropped his little bomb on Saturday. Rodgers might get dealt. We were so wrapped up with the Giants. Understandably, we didn't even touch that. I mean, if he's dealt, one of the targets has to be the Jets. We'll get to that a little later as well. We're on The Fan until 2. That is Carton Roberts coming up after us.